Yeah, good morning and welcome again to Summit. This is our midweek edition of the program. It's good to be with you again today. My name is Jumoke Michaels. I'm still expecting Banji. He had a little issue with his car on the road, so he's still on his way here to the studio. So I'll be anchoring the program alone today, but I believe that you'll have a good time on the program. Well, today is the third day running on the ease of the lockdown in Lagos, FCT, and Ogun State added a week to theirs. So we are having the ease of the lockdown only in Lagos and Abuja. And in the last 3 days, there's been a lot of misgivings. A lot of misgivings have been expressed by Nigerians and all stakeholders on how far Nigerians are adhering to the guidelines given by the government. That's what we'll be looking at on the program today. Because aside the guidelines given by the federal government, the Lagos state government actually came down with its own guidelines on what they expect the people to do, on what they expect, the rules they expect the people to keep. But in the last 2 days, there's been a lot of sights we see on the road of people not adhering to these instructions, especially on Monday. It was really a bad sight to behold on the roads and in the towns and in our localities and in our communities. But how far are people faring? And so as much as we're discussing this morning, we'd like you to also be a part of the discussion, but sending us an SMS on the number we'll display on the screen. Share your experience with us. Do you think this lockdown is too early, or you think we can cope with the aftermath of the release of the ease of the lockdown done by the federal government and also the state government? That's our discussion this morning, and we are looking at the effectiveness of the Lagos state government guidelines. I will go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll go straight into our discussion. So please don't go away. We'll be right back. right, thanks for still being there. The program is Summit, and thanks for joining us again. Well, Banji is here now, so he'll be part of the program. Banji,
Good morning.
good to have you.
I watched the opening. That was a lovely one.
Thank you. Good
We will survive it. By the grace of God, all of us would, by this time, well, let me not put a date to it, but I know shortly, the good Lord would intervene and let us pass over this. My name is Banji Busari, and I'm glad to be here.
All right, like I said, we're looking at the effectiveness of the Lagos State government guidelines regarding the ease of the lockdown in the fight against COVID-19. And joining us for this discussion this morning, we have Mr. Bola Oba, a public affairs analyst and a friend of the house. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
And thanks for coming fully kitted. You're welcome.
It is not, these are not meant to make any sartorial statement. They are just life-preserving measures.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right,
so
okay, no, you go on.
One would actually wonder whether with this kit, all over, whether you were part of the people who actually opted out for the easing of the lockdown as of 2 days ago, or you were one of who felt government shouldn't have done it at that point. So what position did you actually take?
As I'm talking to you now, 75 persons who, one of the companies where I'm a director, paid money last month, believing that the easing was done in a manner that would lead to the chaos that we saw on Monday. 75, all of them are still at home, and they will be paid this month. You know why? I would rather they leave than for me to make money. This evening, we are having a Zoom meeting. The middle level management and the senior management, we are having a Zoom meeting to practically identify how many of those people who depend on us would have to be helped, to reduce their vulnerability to this invisible killer. That is how it should be. We have gone past just making money now. We have to think about the fact that these people are human beings. They may not have the privileges we have in life. They may not have the knowledge we have. They may not even have the resources we have. And it's incumbent on us to make sure that we put measures in place that their lives, that is just my fundamental belief. Because look, we want to make money, What would we do?
Okay, now look at where we, look at where we.
Government actually bent based on the yearnings of the people, saying that they are hungry, and would you blame the government for actually taking that step?
You see, I don't want to get into a blame game.
Yeah.
The historical misgovernance put us in a circumstance where government could not even afford to engage the most vulnerable during the lockdown. So it became inevitable at a point that people would have to go out with well-defined measures. So I'm not saying that government has done anything wrong for allowing the easing of the lockdown. I'm just saying that this is about time that people like us complemented the efforts of the government to make sure that those who are looking to us as mentees, as employees, are also better educated, to let them know that there are some personal measures, personal responsibilities they must take. that can help in the fight against COVID-19. And we've seen examples in Taiwan, we've seen examples in South Korea, where even an election took place, a general election took place, and they were thinking 2 weeks after the election that this thing would spike, and it did not spike, because people made sure they used the face mask, people used gloves, and they turned out well enough for the election, and the election took place. South Korea. In Taiwan, as we speak now, there has literally been, in the last couple of days, zero reporting of any positive case. So, the killer, the invisible killer, as voracious, as virulent as it is, can actually be handled with commonsensical measures. So those who are watching us this morning, we are not here to blame the government. We have even gone past the level of blaming the government now. We are at the age of you, we are at the stage of you taking responsibility for yourself. And we have enough examples from across the world where people who took responsibility have turned the tide in favor of humanity against the virus.
Now, let's look at the easing of the lockdown, particularly in Lagos State, where Governor Sanwo-Olu actually last week came out with guidelines regarding the easing of the lockdown. If you look at the transportation system, the government specified the number of passengers, for instance, for minibuses, passengers for limit for the Marwa, Keke Marwas and all that. On the streets of Lagos, for some of us that are familiar with the street, that use the streets almost every day, we have seen what has happened, the development since Monday. You are also witnesses to what happened in banks. We have seen what has happened in marketplaces. The markets were supposed to, they were actually segmented, where some will come on Monday, that will come on Tuesday and all that. But let's take it one after the other. What could have actually been responsible for what happened in the issue of banks with so much crowd, everybody trying to get service from banks? Was it, would you say, is administrative problem, governmental failure, or
that was what happened at the banks? What happened at the banks was gross irresponsibility of many of the management officers of the banks. The banks, in a responsible society, the banks ought to be fined seriously for what happened on the first day of the easing of the lockdown.
It's still happening, sir. Even as at this morning, I've seen crowds at Moson.
A gross irresponsibility of the senior management of the banks, their local management, and I can afford to tell you that any society that countenances that and lets that go, that society is sending a signal that the citizenry of that society does not command any respect and could be treated by any commercial entity anyhow. What is spectacular about wanting to get banking service? I wrote a piece on my Facebook page, and it was in anger, in response to a joke that somebody made on that Monday evening. They will say there's no money. They will say there's no money. Look at the number of people at the banks. Were they going there to buy a wedu or amala? And I wrote in Yoruba, what, for God's sake, could this mean? Are we talking of a system where the banking system, the banks, they have your data assets, they have your telephone number, they know all the banking transactions you've done within the lockdown. They even know whether as simple as your ATM was not working well. The banks ought to have envisaged that traffic and send a text message. If your surname starts from A to D, we will attend to you on Monday. If your surname is from E to Z, don't bother to come to the bank because you will not get any physical banking transaction done. Download our app. We will complement the app with live telephone banks. And you make sure you populate the telephone line. I have a telephone line in one of my businesses. If you download the app of Automedics now, the telephone line there that people will call, you don't even see the telephone line, you just point the IVR button. It's 150, it could take 150 calls at the same time. Relative to a bank, we are just 150 calls. They call those lines trunk lines. And if you perceive that line is being congested, you can lay another 150 on it. Technology has so made it easy. What happened on Monday was a gross act of irresponsibility, and if it's still happening now, it is because the governments at the state and at the federal have countenanced it. The banks ought to be fined for that madness. I am telling you that even at that today, when I was talking to my fellow directors about how our workers will resume, one of the directors was saying, okay, maybe Monday. I said, no, don't let them just throw them at the Monday rush. Let's tell them this evening that some of them, especially middle-level management and some strategic district, let's tell them that they will resume on Thursday. They would have psychologically reconditioned themselves to the reality of getting to work between Thursday and Monday. And even then, between Thursday and Monday, let's get some vehicles that the company have. Let's get those vehicles ready and make sure that average of 4 and 5 would populate the vehicles and go and they go in the same direction. What is spectacular about making sure that those who work for you to make money, that you think through how to preserve their lives so that they can also loyally serve you well.
If you believe there was a system collapse and the banks or administrative lapse, those people who were there in their thousands, do they not also think of their personal responsibility for their lives?
You see,
I'm asking.
I'm a student of management that believes, and I learned this the hard way in Europe. I undertook a course some years ago as a young, intellectually vibrant, and aggressive. And in that, during tutorials, I would always lambaste the people for ignorance. Lambaste. And the professor was a female professor. She would, very polite, but she would just drop it. That the reason for leadership in human society is because humanity over millennia humanity has come to a conclusion that the majority of us, when left on our own devices, will likely not act well. Leadership is supposed to interface between the natural instinct of humanity to a purposeful and dignified living. That is why I am always reluctant to blame the people for, look, Mr. Busari, whenever human beings perceive that there will be inadequacy, they will rush for what may in fact be necessary. When that was going up in this Lagos, people will rush to board a motorway And when we would have sat in the mode where we would discover that, you know what, all of us rushing, we are not even up to the total number of seats in the mode way. It behoves management, it behoves leadership to let people know that you don't have to come on Monday. If you have a broken ATM card, don't worry. Don't come on Monday. We have a program we are putting in place for you against Wednesday. If you have majority of those who went to those banks, you want me to shock you? Let me even say something that will shock you now. 2% of BVN holders in Nigeria, 2% of those who have BVN numbers own 95% of all the monies in our bank. 2%. It means that the three of us here, we are part of the 98% who own just 5% of the money in our bank. Majority of those you saw at that bank, you want me to shock you? Majority of them are people who are the low enders of that 98%. They are the most anxiety stricken. They are the people under pressure. Maybe the wife has been telling him, or the children have been saying, we have not eaten.
All right, so sad, a sad, very sad scenario you're painting there. Let's quickly take another break. We'll be back shortly. You're welcome back. The program is still Summit, and we still have Mr. Bola Oba here with us in the studio. I want to disagree a bit with you on your last summation, but the government has failed somehow in their part towards ensuring that people adhere to guidelines.
No, I never said that.
Okay, all right, but I want to say...
I said historically governance has failed. But on this occasion, I can't blame the government, because at a point it became imperative that the lockdown must be eased. Now, we have however seen examples of societies where they did not even implement a lockdown, and yet they've been able to manage and positively turn around the relationship of their society with COVID-19.
Yes, but that's because the people obeyed instructions. Because like the Taiwan you mentioned, they said they did not take the instructions of their government lightly. They practiced social distancing, they always wear their face masks, and that was how they were able to bring down the number of the infections. But government in Nigeria has come down to give specific instructions that food markets open Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, non-food markets Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, interstate trips should be suspended, public transportation should be, for the small buses should be 6, the big vehicles should be 8, Marua 2, Okadas don't work at all. But the people who have these instructions are still going out of their way to flout these rules.
You're right, madam. You are factually right.
So is it that these instructions are not clear enough?
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
It's not polite of me to ask you a question.
No.
When the governor of Lagos State was enunciating those guidelines, a couple of hours after it, a TV station called me and Skyped me in their evening in their evening news bulletin. And they asked me what my opinion was about the guidelines, specifically those relating to public transportation. And I said, without being a soothsayer, a prophet, or a seer, I said, you know what? Any other of the guidelines may be successful, but as somebody born in Lagos, raised in Lagos, and knowing the rickety infrastructure that we have for public transportation, and the fact that on Monday, even many who needing to go out would want to go out, and many employers would act irresponsibly by not letting their workers know that they need not go out, come to work on Monday. I said I could bet, and I hate betting. I hate Tete. I hate it. I said I could put my last bottom dollar on the fact that if the guidelines didn't fail at all, it would fail in the direction of transportation. You know, when I was discussing with my fellow directors, one of the reasons why we decided not to open on Monday was because it was just inevitable that you would tell an average manual operator who had not earned money
in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, I don't need to chase that point anymore. You will tell a downfall driver who will still have to pay National Union of Road Transport Workers their extortional tariffs in Oshodi. And when he leaves Oshodi and he gets to Ikeja, another set of people will take from him. You will tell him to only take half of his passenger level. What?
No, you have not even added the fact that there were instructions that the transport owners were expected to apply sanitizers, even check temperatures. You have not added that. How feasible? Now I'm asking.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Some questions in English language are referred to as conundrum. A conundrum is a question that has answered itself. That question is so rich that I was watching the news Monday evening, and a guy just here, Abaja, saw a lady. Are you not wearing? Don't you love your life? Are you not wearing
face mask?
Face mask. She said, "Okay, I don't get money. 100 naira. We are going to buy this." The guy had to put hand in his own pocket and gave her, my brother, my sister, my wife. If you see her own face mask, it's 3,500 naira. She bought two when we went there. I said, no, I will not use 3,500 naira face mask. They call it N95. They say 3,500 naira. My own 35, my 30 men. Not to cover my, effectively cover my this, so that I don't become a pollutant to this thing. This is 100 naira. Am I making a point? You see?
So it may not just be a case of people deliberately flouting the directives or order of the government. Can we lay this at the doorstep of poverty? I mean, pushing people out even when they do not intend to do that.
We lay it at the doorstep of failure of leadership. Not only public or governmental leadership, but leadership at the level of Bola Oba, Busari, and my sister. That's very practical. Some other companies opened on Monday. Abi? Why could we, some of us who are members of NECA, some of us who are members of Lagos Chamber of this thing, why could we not come to the conclusion that, you know what, let's find a way that companies in Apapa who are our members, let's just 30% open, so that the drive by the mass of the employees to go in the direction of Apapa will at least be curtailed logistically.
But even at that, that's exactly what the banks.
Imagine that
no,
if Ogun State had opened that day.
Just a minute, sir.
If Ogun State.
The banks, many of the banks allegedly did not open many of their branches in order to cut costs and maybe apparently low and also to reduce the number of traffic of their staff. That
was irresponsible of the banks.
So would you blame them for reducing the number of traffic on the road? I mean, by reducing the number of branches to be open?
Somebody ought to have envisaged that as a result of what we have noticed, because all the while that you and I and my sister were locked down at home, the banks were collecting data. You know what I mean by collecting data? People were still going to use their ATM machines. People were still using USSD transactions, banking transactions on their phones. People were doing different things, banking online. And those platforms were giving the banks a transactional record that they could use to piece together what would be human behavior. Data is now the new gold. It's now the new oil. They could, given the transactions that we are seeing now, given all this thing, you know what? On Monday, it's that simple artificial intelligence. On Monday, this number of people will come and complain about their ATM cards. This number of people will come and complain about the transactions they did that did not go. That is the power of data. You couldn't have, look.
So let's look at where we are now. The problem is staring us in the face. We have all seen the reality and the consequences of easing the lockdown. 2 days, that's 48 hours after. Now, the problem has not abated. Many more people, on the road. It's as if the economy has been fully opened up. Now, what would you suggest as the way forward? Government is also thinking, and if it's thinking, it does not mean it has all the solutions. Maybe through your idea, what do you think government could do to actually stem the tide of spiking of the cases?
Like homegrown solutions.
We have to look at ourselves in the eyes. Like I will politely look at an average Nigerian watching us now, especially if you are anywhere in Nigeria. I'm happy that I'm seeing pictures being used on the screen where at least people are using face masks. We have to religiously adhere to using face masks. Indeed, the 2 or 3 societies in the world where we are beginning to get positive reports about how humanity is turning over the malignancy of COVID-19. There are societies where people are religiously adhere to using face mask, number 1. 2, kept a very strict hygiene protocol of regularly washing their hands or using effective sanitizers. Me, I can't trust anything that some people go and bring to sell in Nigeria. If I know a chemist, a chemist who can sell me original, I will buy sanitizer. So what I've been doing is combination of wearing this and washing my hands regularly, because pulling it off to use another set, I must wash my hands. We have enough evidence recorded amongst other human beings in other societies that these things work. If you are finger pointing at the government now, you need to also look at yourself. Do you love yourself enough to do the right thing? Apart from that, if you think because you are in a certain age grade where, they say youths are generally, do you have parents that you love? Do you have grannies that you love? That you may as a result of your own misconduct, subject to what may ultimately pain you emotionally?
All right, I want to talk, actually let us talk about the issue of enforcement. Because from the news, if you're following the news, you find that there seems to be more of enforcement in Abuja than Lagos. Talking about security agencies being on the road, stopping cars, stopping vehicles, and then also taking them to the mobile courts, where they are immediately given some form of sentence to something to do to clear up their offense. But we're not seeing that in Lagos.
The
Do you
penalty,
think that's why, yeah, the penalty.
The penalty in the Quarantine Act of 1926 for any offense, as it is being extrapolated in this circumstance, is 100 naira. So I'm sitting there thinking, we don't even have instant laws. We don't have laws. And that was why it was painful that the Speaker wanted the House of Representatives to quickly act on one and get the Senate to also, so that they can have effective laws, but they went about it in a very, very wrong way and a boomerang. But as we speak now, if I decide not to use this face mask, if I decide not to use it, and somebody accosts me outside and says the Lagos State governor enunciated amongst the measures that individuals must take, that face masks must be worn publicly in Lagos, the best I can do, if I just want to listen, will be to be ready to pay 100 naira penalty.
And move on.
Why would in fact the issue you have just referred to, the matter is in court now, because some aggrieved Nigerians are saying that apart from the hastiness of the proposed bill, that it also it had all the trappings of maybe the kind of security breach, and that it trampled on fundamental human rights of Nigerians. Did you share such views?
Let me take, you have about 4 major issues embedded in your own question. I heard that a former member of the Senate, who is now at the tribunal fighting to get back his Senate seat that he reasonably believes was stolen from him, I heard that he instituted a civil action against the Speaker of the House of Representatives because of a bill that he enunciated in Parliament. That is wrong. In fact, don't let me give too much opinion on that. The court will rule on it. Any conduct of a parliamentarian on the floor of any of the 2 chambers of the National Assembly or any of the states' houses of assembly, in so much as is not criminal, has parliamentary protection. And I was disappointed that somebody who has been in the National Assembly for nothing less than 12 years, he was twice member House of Representatives, and at least once a senator. That's number one. Number two is that there are enough mechanisms to counter a bill that does not reflect, one, respect for the fundamental human rights that's enshrined in our Constitution, and indeed that may not be popular with the majority of Nigerians. Have we not heard before of many bills that the proponents had to either withdraw or those bills died because of the antagonism of the public? So, the bill we are talking about, what did the chief proponent do yesterday? He yielded to the pressure by saying, you know what, let's engage the public. Look, I am one who believes that the motive of the speaker was right, but that he was intellectually lazy, because that bill, if you look at that bill and you look at the Singapore's legislation on the curtailment of infectious disease. In fact, in the bill, there are some places in the bill where you see law. So intellectually lazy that somebody just went and scooped the law somewhere, put his name to it, and he became the driver of it. If he, as a lawyer, if he had read some of the provisions of that bill, many of the provisions that are fundamentally inconsistent with the property rights of people, with the right of association, with the right to liberty. Some of those things they would not have. But you know what? We are just a set of lazy people in this country now. We just go. We are looking for solution. We just go and copy from other society. But the motive, I want to believe his motive is right. Because like I joked earlier on, if anyone decides now that he or she does not want to comply with some of these, I can't call them announcements, guidelines. That's why they even call them guidelines.
You're also aware that the Senate is also coming up with the National Health Emergency Bill.
Yes.
What's your...
Appropriately so. And that's why I'm telling you, and you know what the chief proponent in the Senate, you know what he has done? He has not only, yesterday, they were trying to embarrass the DG, Nigerian Center for Disease Control. And the man asked a simple question. As at the time I was interviewed by a TV station, when I said I felt it was too hasty in the middle of the war, and that nobody had contacted me, can anybody here say he or she had contacted me? In the case of the Senate, the guy also went somewhere to copy an act, but he has taken the pain to send a copy of the act, which he officially presented yesterday as a bill, to send it to Attorney General of the Federation, DG, NCDC, Minister of Health, for their own inputs. So, what one needs to say at this juncture is that there is an imperative now for such a law. But the need for such a law should not permit people to go and just carbon copy
from other places,
especially when there are provisions that are inconsistent with the fundamental dictates of our own constitution, which is the ground norm and our way of life.
All right, let me just take some of these messages we have here. We have one from Mr. Stanley. He said, please note quite well that generally Nigeria is not a disciplined society. That's why we can't obey simple laws, and more so, what compounded the situation of this COVID-19 is the inability of banks to being able to serve Nigerians for the past 5 weeks, saying that why haven't they been able to do something at least for Nigerians? This one says, my name is Fakonga Sunday. Mr. Bola Oba, why can't other bank branches open so as to control the crowd and the
virus? We are following the law, because in the guidelines, it says businesses that be open must not have more than 60% of their operational infrastructure deployed. And in complying with that law, some branches couldn't have opened.
Okay, let me just take one more. Government should have continued the lockdown because we do not abide with rules. Even policemen worsened the matter by not doing the needful. That's Kazim from Mile 12. Mile 12 was like a country on its own, because from the information is that the market was opening. It was like nothing was happening. Even this market.
The market had always opened anyway.
Odo. So this market at
Okeodo,
yes. Remember, it was like business as usual in those places.
All food markets had always, in a way, funny way, especially this man, I'm aware of my 12. They had always opened. It's just that in the case of the bank, they were on the one hand complying with the guideline affecting their operations,
and
they
got into
failed.
trouble.
Huh?
I said, and they got into trouble.
But they failed to use adequately the resources that they were privileged to, that most people, not even governments, have. Data is king. I can tell you the number of people, if I put some contraptions, just a CCTV by your main entrance there, if I study movements in the next 3 days, I can tell you who average of 2 hours will go to the toilet. This is the artificial intelligence, AI.
All right, sir. So what's your last word to Nigerians now? Because we have these guidelines. What would be your
My last word now to any Nigerian who loves himself or herself as at this juncture is guideline or no guideline. You cannot see imminent death before you and be acting as though you have a death wish. Look, self-preserve, and in self-preserving, you will follow many of the protocols in those guidelines because they are primarily meant for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gwaloba. Again, I will leave our viewers with the advice. Take full responsibility for your lives. Government has done its part, but of course, your life actually depends on how you handle COVID-19 instructions and directives. My name is Banji Busari. See you again on Monday.
All right, so stay safe, and if you don't need to leave home, stay at home. I'm Jumoke Michaels. Bye-bye.